opportunity for prosperity, and it's about that. So I will leave it here, Uchan. I hope that this workshop and event, it's very, can generate a lot of innovation, can bring new ideas, and can support the work that we're doing under the Secretary with the support of the Korean government. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea. Touching, really. Thank you so much. Well, now I would like to invite the representative of Korea Foreign Service to deliver welcoming remarks. Mr. Park, please.
First of all, I appreciate your strong supporting mention. Thank you. It's my great pleasure to see you today. I'm Young-Han Park, Director of the Global Press Resource Division for Korea Press Service. First of all, I'd like to extend my appreciation to the PFI team from the UNCCD for organizing this event and all participating for being here today. As you can see, the COP15 is joined by a lot of people from around the world despite the COVID-19 pandemic. I think it's proved that global community is paying great attention to the urgency of climate crisis. Recently, as dry season has been getting longer globally, forest fires have been become more frequent. At the same time, much more heavy rainfall and flooding have been also occurring in several areas. Moreover, we are seeing a rise in conflict in regions where the forests have declined due to forest fire, drought, and other natural disasters. As you may know, forests cannot be built within just 1 and 2 years. Once forests, including tropical forests, are devastated, it takes over a generation to plant the forest again. In this context, the most urgent task for addressing climate crisis is conservation and restoration of forests and establishment of sustainable forest management. The Peace Forest Initiative was launched officially in 2019 during the COP14 held in New Delhi, India. The PFI is a policy program to systematically support transboundary cooperation of neighboring countries on restoration of forests and degraded lands. The program aims to manage land and forests in cooperative and efficient way based on the concept of the land degradation neutrality, while promoting peace and confidence between the countries. In particular, it will contribute to the achievement of SDG 15 and 16. Healthy and productive lands and forests are essential to all community sustainable development and a better future. So I firmly believe that ecosystems restoration will bring cooperation and solidarity in plagued and conflict-affected regions. In this context, I have confidence that the PFI will serve as a platform to achieve the common goal for sustainable management of resources and equitable sharing of benefit while leading the reconciliation and trust between countries. The KFS and the UNCC Secretariat will spare no effort to scale up the PFI pilot project. On top of that, the Republic of Korea, as a leading country in forest sector, will also continue to share abundant experience and know-how on restoration and management of land and forest with the global community through various approaches, including the ODA. I hope that this workshop will become an opportunity for the PFI to move one step further as a global policy program. I'd like to finish by thanking the UNCC Secretariat for its tireless effort to development of the PFI, and I wish all of you all success and happiness and look forward to convening to share valuable insight together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Park, for the speech. Well, I'm probably many of us know already each other, but what if we have a self-introduction to a table? I mean, could he introduce myself? So, can you start from Bosnia and Herzegovina? Yep. Yeah, please.
Distinguished participants, I'm Svetlana Lazic, work as Senior Advisor for Agricultural Land Protection in Ministry of Forestry, Agriculture and Water Management, Republic of Srpska. I came from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Unfortunately, there was a war 30 years ago. I was a teenager then, and believe me, after all these years in Bosnia is more or less conflicts, not conflicts, but misunderstandings between governments. So when we recognize the name of this initiative, when we recognize the piece of the name, we recognize the support to do something to our country. So we prepare concept. If I have enough time, maybe I
Introduce
show
yourself.
about concept.
No, introduce yourself.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think that's enough.
Me, I'm from Central Africa. I work at the Commission of Economic Community of Central Africa, and as you know, and I'm how can I say? Because I'm French-speaking people. That's why. But I can explain that I'm in charge of forest. Sustainable forest management in my organization. That organization is for 11 countries, Central African countries. It's 11, and as I've seen the title, the subject of your SAD event, I see that you talk about it. I don't know much about it, but as it's a title that for Peace Forest Initiative, I've come. I want to understand. I want to learn or to know what you want to communicate, because in our region we have the problem of conflicts because of forest resources. That's why I'm here.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Dominga Polanco, punto focal nacional de la República Dominicana. Conocimos de la iniciativa de Bosque de la Paz durante la COP14, donde nos fue presentada. Quizás pueda ayudarnos.
Yes, she is Dominga Polanco from Dominican Republic, and they learned about this initiative at COP14 in Delhi.
Ok, quisiera decir que nos pareció muy interesante, dado que compartimos una isla con Haití. República Dominicana y Haití son parte de una isla. Tenemos una degradación altísima en Haití y avanzando hacia la República Dominicana. Nos interesamos, revisamos los términos de referencia, hemos presentado informes a nuestras autoridades y hemos llegado al punto de tener un borrador de carta que esperamos en algún momento, si así lo deciden las autoridades, puedan continuar el proceso. Gracias.
Yeah, from COP14, they have been very interested in the project and the initiative, and they have worked out already some institutional arrangements so that this could be taken a step forward with Haiti, which is a country that shares the same island.
Saludos, buenas tardes. Por favor, me apoyas también con la traducción, Edgar. Franklin Linares, punto focal de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela. Nada, vimos el tema, es muy atractivo la denominación, la presentación y quisimos estar, pues ver qué podemos extraer de allí y consultar, someter a consideración de nuestro gobierno para nuestro interés.
Good evening, Franklin Hernandez from Venezuela. They are very much interested in knowing more about the initiative because they are thinking that perhaps this initiative could help them develop a project in their own land.
¿Me ayudas también, Edgar? Buenas noches, Karima Lince, punto focal de Panamá. También escuchamos de este evento y nos pareció muy interesante, además que esta mañana se nos presentó la iniciativa en el Grupo de Latinoamérica y el Caribe, y en particular en mi país, que tengo mucho interés porque compartimos lo que se llama el tapón del Darién entre Panamá y Colombia, y es una zona que por muchos años ha sido de conflicto armado, y también es una zona de inmigración muy, muy importante para toda Latinoamérica e incluso otras partes del mundo, y considero que pudiera ser un buen punto para un proyecto de este tipo.
Good evening, she's Karima from Panama. She's very much interested in knowing this initiative because Panama and Colombia shares a border, which is at this moment in time an important border for migration, people that are coming from the south to the north. And they have what is called the Tapón of Darién, this huge piece of forest that belongs to Panama, and which is in a very pristine status. And they want to see what they can learn from the initiative, so that if just to take the information back home and see if they can apply for being part of the project.
Allô? Thank you. Je vais m'exprimer en français et mon voisin de gauche pourra traduire. Je me remercie de m'avoir donné cette tranche. C'est juste un rappel. Nous avons au niveau de New Delhi le Tchad et Central African Republic ont été identifiés comme étant deux pays pilotes qui devraient implémenter l'initiative Paix Forêt en Afrique centrale. C'était pour voir un peu si effectivement c'est bien implémenté, ça pourra être dupliqué dans certains pays.
Well, he says hello, and he asked a question about a project that was to exist between Chad and Central African Republic, and he was hoping to get an update as to what the situation is on that project. And please tell me your name. Yes, Lamba. His name is, Barthélemy Lamba.
Et donc, jusqu'à la date d'aujourd'hui, on n'a pas pu être contacté pour la suite de l'implémentation de ce projet. Et nous avons beaucoup apprécié l'initiative qui a été développée par la République de la Corée du Sud, parce qu'effectivement, les corridors de transhumance sont aujourd'hui suffisamment dégradés. Et c'est ça qui permet bien évidemment des déplacements à l'interne. Et ces déplacements à l'interne causent d'énormes dégâts environnementaux.
He very much appreciates the engagement of the Republic of Korea in these efforts, and highlights the fact that the type of project is quite important because there's quite a lot of movement of populations through forests between the two countries.
Et donc nous sommes toujours dans l'attente. Je pense que nous avons été interpellés à plusieurs reprises par les ministres qui ont prononcé des discours lors de la réunion de lancement de l'initiative. On n'a pas d'éléments probants à leur donner. Et donc, du coup, on est un peu, pas frustré, mais on sait quels sont les éléments à mettre à la disposition donc, de nos ministres. Voilà.
To summarize, they're very interested in the project, but since it was announced, they haven't had a chance to find out any more details about the project. And there are people waiting to implement the project. They're very interested in the project. So they'd like to know more about what is going to happen with the project. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Eder Odat. Je suis Eder Odat. Je viens d'Haïti. Je suis le directeur des forêts et des énergies renouvelables pour le ministère de l'Environnement d'Haïti et point focal de la convention. Et je suis là, c'est juste pour assister à cette rencontre d'échange par rapport à l'initiative Forêt pour la paix. Good evening, everyone. I am Eder Odat. I am the Director of Forest and Renewable Energy for the Ministry of Environment of Haiti. And now I am here with you to get more information about this program, Forest for Peace initiative. I think since the last COP, we are working so hard about this project, and now we want to know how we will continue to communicate with our ecological organization about this project. Thank you for all.
Can you move to the... Okay, please.
I'm Langsina To from Burkina Faso. I'm president of NGOs One Child, One School Bag, and focal point of sustainable future for Africa and the diaspora. In this organization, we want to give a voice of Africa and diaspora about different COP incoming. I'm here for this exchange to learn and to give my contribution for the peace and environmental development about desertification and so. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. Next. Daniel, please.
Hi, my name is Daniel Tsagay. I'm a program officer at the UNCCD Secretariat. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jose Miguel Torrico. I'm the Regional Liaison Officer from Latin America and the Caribbean. I work from the UNCCD.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Kiaule. I'm from United Republic of Tanzania under Environmental Division. I'm the National Project Coordinator for the project related to reverse land degradation in the semi-arid area. Some interest to participate in this side event, especially on the Peace Forest Initiative. In my country, we have a lot of initiative of tree planting. So I want to get experience from this peace initiative, Peace Forest Initiative from Korea. So some of the time we plant the tree mainly for the campaign because of the political leaders emphasize community to plant the tree. But at the end of the day, we don't know who is going to buy the tree, what the species of the tree you plant is suitable at the particular area. So through this Peace Forest Initiative, we can communicate and share the experience, how we can implement our forest initiative in my country. Thank you.
Hello, good evening everyone. I am Michael Brahane from the Ministry of Agriculture of the State of Eritrea. And thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nadia Michael, also part of the Eritrean delegation by the way of New York as a second committee representative. Thank you.
Good evening, colleagues. My name is Tashoma Tamrat. I am from Ethiopia. national focal point for UNCCD. Currently, I'm working for Ethiopian Forestry Development. I'm really happy and appreciate to join this initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. My names are George Tadu from South Sudan. Maybe some of you are surprised to hear this South Sudan as the youngest, but we are not young in the sense that we have been existing quite a long time ago. However, the issue of forestry initiative to provide coexistence between fighting groups, I think South Sudan will be one of the best to give the leadership in that kind of thing. We have a long experience of fighting each other, and even the intercommunal fighting over and over. The issue is always being created by land degradation, and land degradation creates poverty, and poverty creates anger in person. And therefore, there's a need to use forestry to provide a way of living together and also creating the harmony, at the same time protecting the environment and improving the livelihood of people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please.
Good evening. My name is Edgar Gutierrez. I'm from UNCCD. I'm Special Envoy for LAC.
Good evening. My name is Murali Tumargudi. I am from UNCCD, leading the G20 initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to introduce yourself, please, to backside, or please come forward. You are part of the workshop. Please come forward and introduce yourself, please.
Good evening, distinguished participant. My name is Sonpil Jin, Vice Executive Director of APOCO. APOCO is Asian Forest Cooperation Organization. We already shared the concept of PFI and knowledge since 2020. Yeah. APOCO is a treaty-based international organization currently with 16 member countries. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ki Kang-bae, in charge of project development from APOCO. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. I cordially welcome you again once more. Actually, this evening's meeting has two subsections. The first one is the presentation of the draft elements of the PFI operational guidelines. We are going to present the video, recorded the video about this operational guidelines first, and then we have we gather feedback and your inputs for these guidelines, and then second part of this program is the interactive session. In the interactive session, we are going to have a plenary. As I said, we're going to collect feedback, your feedback on the PFI operational guidelines, and then we will have a separate group. Probably, I think 2 or 3 groups can be formed according seeing your number of your participants, and probably, I will give you 20 minutes to brainstorm about what kind of activities can be done, specifically in your context. So you have you have 20 minutes for that discussion, and you will be then invited to the plenary to report back to what they discussed. So then that report period is 30 minutes. Then after that, we will have a question and feedback session, and then we will wrap up of the meeting. So I hope this would work for everyone. Clear? All right, then let's have some fun. I'm going to prepare the presentation. Sorry. Before playing this video, I would like to update what has been done so far since we launched the Peace Forest Initiative in 2019. From 2019 to 2020, we developed a TOR of the Peace Forest Initiative. I remember some of you already participated in the consultation meeting of this when developing this TOR. Now this TOR has been finalized, and I can share with you if you like later this evening. Based on the TOR, now we are developing this operational guidelines for the PFI. So we hired experts from outside, and now she's working on the very first element of these operational guidelines. So now I play this video. Sorry. It's not working.
Turn it off.
Yes, it's playing. The sound is not coming out. No? Okay. Cannot play. What's wrong? Let me try. It should work. No, cannot play. What's wrong? It works, people. Sorry. Okay. Now, where's sound?
Spelling out what the program is about, what it intends to do, and importantly, how. And today I wanted to walk you through some of the first initial elements and ideas for the guidelines, and specifically we want to hear your feedback and ideas and thoughts. How do you want to see the Peace Forest Initiative evolve further? But let's get started. I trust that most of you are somewhat familiar with the Peace Forest Initiative, or PFI in short, but just to give a very quick background, it was launched in 2019 at the 14th Conference of the Parties of UNCCD in New Delhi, with initial funding provided by the Korea Forest Service. The PFI aims to contribute to peace building and increasing prosperity, especially in cross-border conflict-affected settings, focusing on the post-conflict environments. And the way it intends to achieve this is by promoting joint target setting for land degradation neutrality and ecosystem restoration, by mobilizing related commitment and building partnerships across different stakeholders. Importantly, it contributes to the achievement of the SDG 16 on peace, justice and strong institutions, and it also contributes to the UN Decade on ecosystem restoration. So let's begin with the actual elements of the PFI operational guidelines. First up is the draft vision statement for the initiative, and this is very much a draft, open for discussion and modifications as required. But as of now it reads, the PFI seeks to build peace and trust and improve cooperation and human well-being in conflict-affected cross-border landscapes through joint implementation of land degradation neutrality and sustainable land and forest management and restoration. Essentially, the PFI is based on the idea that improved resource governance, for example, more transparent or inclusive governance of shared resources in these cross-border landscapes can actually provide new opportunities for increased cooperation, increased exchange, and confidence building between the countries. And looking at the PFI impact areas here, perhaps the number one is the most important one, which evolves around creating this kind of enabling environment for the cross-border cooperation. And then it kind of provides the foundation for impact areas 2 and 3 to actually achieve the more sustainable management and restoration targets, and in securing delivery of the vital ecosystem services. And this impact is envisioned to be achieved through the broad outline of activities which basically involve the countries setting common LDN targets and then developing joint projects around these targets, and then actually also jointly together implementing them on the ground. And as the work evolves, it's also very important to document the activities and draw some lessons learned to inform the future work, but also to share those lessons. Here we have a simple illustration of the main elements that the Peace Forest Initiative aims to bring together. First of all, we have the restoration of the degraded land and ecosystem as the kind of core component of the initiative, and that will be achieved through the application of the land degradation neutrality, or LDN process. And ideally, the LDN process will be applied on a landscape level, so that brings certain other elements into the picture. And then on the right-hand side here, we then have the conflict-sensitive aspects that need to be considered, in addition to any relevant aspects that relate to the transboundary collaboration between countries. So by essentially bringing all these different perspectives and elements together, the PFI, its principles, its impact areas and activities, it seeks to build peace, increase cooperation and human well-being, and also contribute to the achievement of the SDG 16. So why are land, forests or other ecosystems so prone to conflict? I assume most of you are well familiar with the basic concept of land and ecosystem degradation, so we don't need to discuss that in more detail here due to time limitations. But I just wanted to quickly discuss the specific link between degradation and conflicts. This is a very complex topic, and it's also a very context-specific topic. And it actually hasn't been so extensively studied so far. And obviously this is a very, very simplified presentation, but I just wanted to bring up a few of the key elements here and start unpacking this complex relationship a bit more. So one of the key drivers behind the conflict and land degradation is the growing competition over land and natural resources. And this competition is often amplified, for example, by human population growth, or it can be amplified by the resource dependence. So many rural communities are often very highly dependent on the local resources for their subsistence or their livelihoods. Another factor is urbanization. It is increasingly growing in many parts of the world, and it's another competing form of land use. And then, of course, the global warming. We are seeing extreme weather events and climatic events in different parts of the world. And these, for example, droughts or floods can have a different direct impact on the local resources and the livelihoods. If we think about forests, for example, from the local perspective, they are again very important resource for the community livelihoods. But then from the national perspective, they are also very important economic assets, as they can provide, for example, timber resources, or they can provide land. And increasingly, they're also seen as providers of global goods, as they are important carbon sinks, or they can be harboring important biological diversity, and so on. But this linkages between conflicts and land degradation is actually, it's kind of a two-way street, in the sense that conflicts themselves can also amplify the land degradation simply by further intensifying the ongoing resource competition that I've been mentioning here. At the same time, it should be remembered that land or ecosystems are rarely the only single cause of conflict. Human societies are very complex mosaics or formations with very different aspects and drivers, economic, social, environmental, or political and cultural aspects. And very often natural resources can be one of these drivers, but often in a combination with other drivers, and together they fuel the conflicts. And other such factors include, for example, poor resource governance, unequal access and control over resources, the resource depletion itself, or then there might be some historical grievances in the background that need to be resolved. And some actually call land degradation as a threat amplifier, together with these other drivers of conflict. So since this is a sensitive topic, and specific guidelines on how to work on conflicts and land degradation do not exist as of now, what I've done is I've been identifying and reviewing other existing guidelines related to resources and conflicts that are out there online, and try to kind of tease out some relevant elements that could be useful for the purpose of the PFI. And these include, for example, UN Habitat has developed specific guidelines on land-related conflicts, and then there's also guidelines on the implementation of REDD projects or other climate change mitigation projects in forests, or how to practice conflict-sensitive conservation, or what are the general linkages between natural resources and conflicts overall. And then obviously there are many country-level case studies to learn from. So what I've done is then draft some initial points based on this literature that I've gone through of some of the conflict-sensitive aspects for PFI. This list is by no means an exhaustive list, and it's still a work in progress, and I think certain elements definitely need to be strengthened a bit. For example, the transboundary aspects of the work. But just to quickly go through them. One of the first things to do is to really identify and analyze the root causes of the conflicts, and what is the role of the specific resources in the given context. And then obviously the restoration and management activities should be designed and implemented in a way that takes these specific conflict and contextual aspects into consideration. And Legal environment is very important. In case there are any old grievances considering land tenure or access and management rights of the resources, it would be important to clarify these unclarities. It's also useful to design measures that really try to empower the local communities and reduce poverty, and that way mitigate the risk of further conflicts in the future. Another thing that the PFI could be doing is to really focus on strengthening the existing governance structures and institutions. I already mentioned in earlier slides about the need to create an enabling environment and a platform for collaboration, and this obviously will involve the existing governance structure, so to avoid any parallel duplication of the existing framework. Also, fair sharing of benefits as well as mainstreaming gender into the activities is really essential, as well as development of some kind of dispute or conflict resolution mechanism that is appropriate in the given context. Now let's take a very quick look at the proposed governance framework for PFI. Obviously, one of the main actors of this initiative is the UNCCD Secretariat, and as the name Secretariat suggests, they would be really the main point of contact for the initiative and providing overall programmatic support and strategic planning, as well as promoting the initiative in general through advocacy and building partnerships, supporting resource mobilization and providing overall coordination. But also being responsible for knowledge management, so compiling information as the initiative progresses and then disseminating it further. Then national partners are crucial partners and can include different types of stakeholders, from government agencies and civil societies, NGOs, to communities, technical experts, can be private sector, whoever is relevant in a given context. And the national partners would mainly work on developing the project concepts and seek funding for them, and as of course then implement the project activities. In general, of course, very broad-based stakeholder engagement is recommended, but there are certain aspects, especially from the conflict perspective, that are useful to consider. For example, what kind of implications would the inclusion of certain stakeholders but the exclusion of others kind of create? Or what is the potential with the current stakeholder composition? What is the potential to reach consensus, but also to maintain the legitimacy of the process? Or who are really the key marginalized groups in a given context? Then we have the international, bilateral UN partners. Basically, we have implementing partners that could be FAO, UNDP, or IUCN. Or then we have the funding partners, such as the Global Environment Facility or the GCF, the Green Climate Fund. So these agencies would then work together with the national partners on developing the project concepts and project proposals, and either, depending on their role, either they would be funding the projects or they would be the implementing partners. And I would say here some of the key parameters for partner selection include obviously the country presence, but also the appropriate mandate and expertise and capacity that the partner agencies hold. Then we have two other actors here who I would classify as maybe advisory bodies. We have the Partners Roundtable to support the strategic work and information exchange and those kind of aspects, as well as then the regional technical working groups, who are really the substance experts of the given context, so they can help with coordinating the regional activities. So before finishing, I just wanted to quickly go through some draft elements that I've put together as ideas for the actual project concepts. First of all, what is of course needed is a request for assistance from the countries that want to join the PFI to really demonstrate that there is political will, there is institutional support and national buy-in for this approach. Then perhaps there's a chance to include some initial analysis on the specific conflict and the role of the land and ecosystem degradation, as well as a description of any existing cooperation mechanisms already in place between the two countries that these PFI activities could be built on. Then countries could also include a description of the readiness to implement the LDN process as well as the landscape process, whether it's already an existing readiness or planned for the future, as well as some initial analysis of the key stakeholders that they would like to engage in that landscape, and of course about the restoration targets, and also what is the expected impact that this PFI support is expected to achieve. Then final slide on financial arrangements. So the PFI implementation is envisioned to take place through multi-partner blended funding and perhaps a trust fund, specific trust fund in the future. Key partners involving the global mechanisms and global actors such as GEF and different development banks, bilateral donors, and if available, also domestic financing from the participating countries as co-funding. But there is also scope to explore some other potential innovative mechanisms, for example, if there's scope for any public-private partnerships or developing some revenue-generating activities in the given landscape, and so on. And as I mentioned in the beginning, we very much look forward to your feedback and ideas and hearing from you. How do you see the PFI developing from here, and so that we can incorporate your feedback and views in these project elements. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, everybody. As you can tell, I am not Uchang. He just got called out to a very important meeting, and he apologizes for that. And now I have the Arctic blowing on my shoulders as well. So what we'd like to do now is just ask, did anybody have any comments about the presentation? And if you'd like me to go back to any of the slides, I can go back and look at specific slides if you had any comments. I know it's a little bit hard to see sometimes, but so we can go back and look at those. And then, just a minute, once we finish the review of the slides and the presentation, any comments, then we'll have a breakout groups just to discuss what can be done to implement this framework that's been developed in the near term. And then we'll come back, share our thoughts, and that will be concluding the evening here. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. As I can see, the presentation is very precise and substantial. But if you could share us the document in our respective emails, we can read it. But as we can see from here, the contrasting color could not show us the slides in detail, but we couldn't understand. But it seems a guideline, very important guideline produced by the consultant. So we can get the presentation and can read out in detail and can have take our notes from that. So that's all I have for the comment.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions about the presentation? Or would anybody like to see, I can go back and look at specific slides if you're interested. Am I missing? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Bueno, me pareció bastante clara y y rica la presentación. Tuve la oportunidad de acercarme un poco e irla resumiendo. Me parece buena y sí me apoyo la opinión de mi antecesor en términos de que sería importante que se pueda enviar por correo electrónico. Algunas personas tuvieron que irse por cuestiones de transporte, pero están muy interesados en la iniciativa de Bosques para la Paz. Gracias.
She says that the presentation was really good, really nice and interesting, but that also she supports the idea of sharing the presentation to all of the participants in this workshop, because some people had to leave because transportation issues, and they would be much interested in having a copy of the presentation.
Just one comment, because all of us are very tired, and it is very, sometimes we have a problem to hear enough. It's very fast for us to take all this information at the time, and it's too much. It's too much for us. But I have maybe who write these guidelines. Maybe two comments. Differences between countries, there is depends real war or real conflict, and countries with misunderstanding, or differences, maybe different parts of guidelines between countries as Bosnia, as this misunderstanding inside the country. I know that all around the world we have the countries who has conflicts inside the countries, and to other side is differences when we have a peace forest between neighbor countries. Maybe when you write these guidelines, just thinking about that.
Okay, thank you very much. I've noted that down. Also, feel free, if you have a moment, to send an email to Uchang directly, if you have his email address. If not, contact me and you can comment directly. Yes, please, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly, the presentation, of course, is touching and is also pointing a reality on the ground in so many countries. For example, as I've just said, we in South Sudan, we had a long struggle with Sudan before we separated, and that's one of the experience that is needed. The observation, or maybe the comment I wanted to add, is that when you talk about land degradation and the restoration using forestry, it may not be immediate, but if there could be possibility of doing agroforestry together with forestry, and then of course maybe some kind of intercropping, that will give the answer in the shortest possible time, while the land restoration using the forestry becomes a second, becomes in the following stage. So forestry, agroforestry could give more immediate answer to the problems. Another one is maybe to include element of do no harm plan when designing this kind of restoration plan, because sometimes may also, instead of providing solution, may also add some problems to the conflict over the forest itself. So there is a need also to include do no harm plan within this kind of frustration through a forestry. So I think these are the comments that I just wanted to do, but otherwise I could be one of the persons that wants to be part of this kind of initiative between South Sudan and Sudan, so that we can have that one in a long border that we are sharing. And also the government have already signed the peace agreement, and we are living politically, we are one, but still some of the wounds still exist between the different communities where they sometimes have some issues, and this could be one of the solutions to make more stable coexistence a forum for the two countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments about the presentation or the whole concept of peace forests? Good. So, rather than breaking you up into groups and discussions and coming back, let me just open it up now to asking you for ideas about how this approach can be taken more in a direction that's more practical in the near future. What else can be done to try to demonstrate the concepts, to apply the concepts, to raise awareness about the concepts, to see how well they work, get more input on them. What do we think can be done to achieve those kinds of outcomes in the near term? Let's say the next 6 months or 12 months. Anybody have any ideas or an interest in being involved? Sir.
Thank you again for giving me the chance. Actually, here I'm representing Ethiopia. We have really in a situation of conflict for the last before 20 years with Eritrea, but now after the peace agreement has been signed, we are in a peace now. But we really accepted, on my side, we really accept this initiative can be implemented in an appropriate way if we are going to use it, the guideline, or we can have our own modality. So we really appreciate and join this peace initiative. First, the community dialogue or awareness workshop is the principal activity that we anticipate to conduct between the two countries, and see the view and observe what the community do have in their opinion, to see their opinion. And then with the workshop, we can also involve the local community as well as the decision makers, how we move forward. And then we also plan to have a kind of experience sharing between the two conflict countries, so that we can share the border and identify the pilot project area which we are going to restore that land. So when we think of land restoration, we are going to involve so many components on the concept, development that comes in the third process of our implementation of this Peace Forest Initiative, so that we develop a concept or a proposal that's going to be implemented between the two countries. So we build forestry, we use community livelihood improvement activities. We like to ecosystem restoration. Also would like to contribute for national determined contribution and integrate to land degradation neutrality. So procedurally, awareness raising, experience sharing, then concept note writing, then implementation, the peace initiative. These are the principal activities that we are planning at the moment. So this is my view. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other suggestions of how this can be moved forward? Sir, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again. Just to add what my colleague from Ethiopia said, I am from Eritrea. In Eritrea, we have a very interrelated problem of this drought, land degradation, desertification, biodiversity loss, and this food insecurity. Unfortunately, we had a conflict with Ethiopia. This also aggravates the condition. But we do have the government has a clear policies and strategies to combat or to address the issue of these interrelated problems. So far we have done a very remarkable works in these issues in land restoration and reclamation activities. We do have an exemplary works, but we have a lot of works to do. The remaining is more than what you have done. And this initiative, Peace Forestry Initiative, we welcome, accept this initiative, starting from its name, peace. We like peace more than any other because we know what war is. So we are very welcome with this initiative because from this slide we have learned that this is a complementary or supporting to what we have done so far in our country. So when you hear this initiative, we have already started bilateral discussion with my friend and colleague from Ethiopia on how to go forward in implementing this. Now the things, as he said, is good. I mean, in the border, we hope in the future to be better. And then, as he said, we will develop together project proposals, workshops, study tours. We have, as I said before, we have a good exemplary interventionists. So our friends from Ethiopia, they can come to our country and learn. And we also can share experience from Ethiopia. These things can be done. So we are ready to work for better of our region and for the better of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Eventually I'll get something that works. Thank you. Thank you. Next, please.
I think just a little addition. We see from the presentation and also the ideas coming, when we look at it, it's not a simple kind of proposal writing. It is a bit complex, and I propose the initiators of this initiative could come up with a small team to develop guidelines on how we go about it. And when we talk about this kind of initiative, not necessarily to be between two countries. It could be inter and intra-country conflicts, providing restoration and then provide peace through forest. I think there is a need to have a small committee of experts, and the committee will divide, well, I mean, will develop a guideline that can guide us to do. And then perhaps the campaign or the awareness creation could be based on regions. We put regions and then make a kind of awareness, and this awareness will provide even the tools that can be used to develop a bankable and then also realistic kind of proposals. So in support to what have been said by Eritrea and Ethiopia, I propose the initiators try to come up with a small group of experts can develop guidelines where it can be used for this kind of thing. And then awareness, of course, could be created, either digital or maybe coming physical together as a regional levels, so that we are clear of what is really coming out of that. Because if you look at there is a peace building, there is also a forestation that is improving the livelihood, and at the same time also trying to create a new environment, a new micro-environment across the countries. So this is where I look at it. Look from different dimensions, not only from one dimension of building the peace, but also beyond that, climatic mitigation, the same time adaptation, and improving the livelihoods. Thank you.
I hear you speaking from experience. It's very good. Thank you. Any other comments or, yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. I'm actually from UNCCD, and if there was a syndicate group, you're supposed to be facilitating it. But since we are not having a group, I thought I will give some input to all group. And I'm actually speaking from my previous experience of having worked in the UN, other parts of the UN, for close to 20 years on conflicts and disaster management, and actually Paulina is one of my colleagues in Geneva. And I have worked in South Sudan between 2004 to 2020. So I'm actually very familiar with the context you are operating and the matters you are raising. So first of all, I think it's a fantastic idea. This has tremendous potential, and I want to congratulate the government of Korea for supporting this initiative. Number two, I think some of the points raised here need to be well clarified as to whether this has to be a transboundary between two countries with an active conflict, or something which has a potential for a conflict but there are currently no conflict. Could it be something internal, as many countries have these fraction lanes within? And the third one is, could it be regional? You know, it is often very difficult to bring two people who are already at conflict bilaterally to cooperate, but it's much better to bring them together, or much easier to bring them as a part of the group. And I understand there are some formulations like that. So I'm sure some of this is in the guideline, but it would be good to clarify that. Also, I want to second what my colleague from South Sudan mentioned. This is a complex matter because it has at least two very distinct elements. One is forest management, and there are a lot of experts on that. And one is on peace building, and there are many experts on that. Now, here is somewhere, and these people not normally don't meet or work together. So how do we bring the two together, and how do we craft a proposal where both elements are there? When I looked at the presentation, I could see that it's already listed in the guidance, but it is very complicated. It is not very easy. It's somebody who is either in forest management or in conflict management will not be able to write the proposal on their own. So they would need some sort of support. And one of the activity I would suggest the initiative do, and I would of course take it up with Uchang bilaterally, but I'm just giving my opinion in public, is to probably conduct some sort of an enabling workshop for a few potential case studies to bring them together, probably for 3-4 days, and have an intensive workshop where we explain to them the entire conflict analysis framework, the transboundary aspect, and what are those things which you can start early. For example, monitoring, especially remote sensing type of analysis, is always much less controversial compared to trying to do anything on the ground. In my last job, we have done similar work in transboundary wetlands between Afghanistan and Iran, Iran and Iraq, where we brought the parties together and created a framework for joint monitoring as a starting point, and through which you build confidence, and then that eventually get into a joint management plan. Whereas if you were to put joint management plan as an objective and try to bring people together, that's not always very easily accepted. So let's work on this with an enabling type of workshop where we bring few potential case studies together. I understand that a number of them have already invested some time and maybe may have a submitted proposal. I think it'll be a good idea to bring them together, polish them a bit, support with external consultants to craft it to something which is viable, and then take it forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, from experience, very useful to have experience like that. Any other suggestions on the way forward? We've had some pretty good ideas here, both very specific to a couple of countries and specific to the approaches that could be used to bringing together different groups, and recognizing that forest agents or people working in agriculture or natural resource management are not the same as conflict people, and that would have to be bridged. And that's a very important bridge to build between the two groups. Anything else? Good. Well, either we've covered all the ideas or you're all very tired. Probably both. So I will go back to Uchang. I've taken notes here. I'll summarize them for him. I'll note that you would all like to receive the presentation in more detail and more details about what's being proposed, so you can review that and give a chance to give feedback. And also the ideas and I say conceptual point that there's a challenge in bringing together people who work in conflict and peace building and people who work in natural resource management. And there needs to be a development of a capacity and experts to support the bridging of those two fields and bringing that together. In a practical level, we had the case from Eritrea and Ethiopia where they talked about the process they're going to go through to go from the concept to the practice, and that's very good as an example. And then the comments from, I guess, South Sudan and UNCCD about how to build awareness among potential project sites and working with them to explain the process and also the balance between the two different sets of experts and bringing them together and going through a process of helping them develop practical projects in that area. And then the point made about, I guess, the difference between a potential a conflict between two states, two governments, two countries, and a conflict within a country. And I think that's a very important distinction for many different reasons, both legal and political and economic. But that's and also, I think, an important point that we need to make sure is brought into the guidance here. The distinguishing between two groups fighting over access to pasture land within a country is different than two countries fighting over a variety of other reasons. So the nature of the conflict is very important. Good. Anybody have any final thoughts this evening, besides the fact that you want to go someplace else? If not, I would like to thank you all for having come. I apologize in advance for Uchang needing to run off to other responsibilities. He's also trying to help draft some documents for the meeting that need to be finished by tomorrow, I guess. But I'd like to thank you on his behalf for having come to this session on Peace Building Forests and providing your very useful input and thoughts about how the process should move forward. And I will pass on to him that you want to see the document, the presentation and the documents that he's been working on, so you can give it further input. But I think we've come up with some very useful ideas, and I'll pass those on to you, Chang, as well. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you over there. Please go ahead.
I just want to remind you, if you want to receive this file, I think you better leave your email, so it'll be better for us to contact you. Thank you so much. So I will, you could go around, you can go around. Thank you.
Sorry, we're going old school here. I'll distribute a couple of pieces of paper, and you just write your email very clearly on the piece of paper. Hold on a minute. So I'll wait here and just give me a piece after you finish. Here, let me just take one. After you've had a chance to fill it out, inscribez nombre et email address. Okay. Et pays. Pour ceux qui parlent français, mettez votre nom, votre contact email et votre pays. Votre pays. Voilà. Too many languages here. Otherwise, thank you very much, and please have a little bit more fruit and juice and anything else over there. And I hope you have a very pleasant evening and a very productive end to the conference, the COP. Thank you very much.